Hello viewers, I'm SP and welcome to Total War Warhammer 3 and the Realm of the Chaos Dwarves. It's new faction time here in Total War Warhammer. It's been a little while and I'm very excited to get back into it. But before we do that, there are a couple of announcements that we have to get through. First of all, thank you very much to our friends over at Creative Assembly for letting me get my hands on an early build and show it off to all of you prior to release, upcoming later this week. The 13th is when this will be available for everyone to purchase. As is generally the case with these early builds, you can see that development in progress sticker up at the top left. This is not fully representative of the launch code. There are bugs in this build that I believe are already fixed for launch, so just be aware of that. We may have some weirdness in our experience here and there. Thing number two is my voice. Those of you who've been around here for a while, the regulars are noticing this is not normal. Apologies. Last week I caught the COVID. It finally happened. My advice on that one, do not do that. It sucked. But thanks to the magic of modern medical science, I am better-ish. I am mostly pretty better. I say as a coughing fit comes on. 1 second. I got my cough button rigged up. Don't worry. My voice is not fully recovered though. My throat's still a little raw. So apologies for that. It will improve as time goes on here, as we get deeper into the series. But hopefully, if you can put up with that, we're gonna learn some things about a cool new faction here together. I want to let me clarify. When I say cool, the Chaos Dwarves are definitely like among the most profoundly evil of the factions in total in Warhammer Fantasy. And if you know anything about the other factions we've been playing lately, that's really saying something. Please do not read me as endorsing anything that the Chaos Dwarves are into, except I guess their headgear. Their hats are pretty cool. So we're actually going to be playing a Realm of Chaos game instead of Immortal Empires. The Chaos Dwarves have unique campaign mechanics here. They are not engaged in the battle over the blood of Ursun, and I want to check that out.
Master of fire.
So, the Chaos Dwarves seem like they're a little bit complicated, a little bit more complicated than most factions. And by the way, I guess this is a good time to say, if you're not familiar with Total War Warhammer, you don't know anything about this, don't worry, you will not be left behind. I will be trying to explain everything in a way that makes what's going on comprehensible for everybody. But this one, it might take a little while to get the hang of some of the economic stuff that's going on here. So I had to look at these, the lore and the starting positions and stuff, and I think we're going to be playing as Drazhoath the Ashen here. I think I've got that name approximately correct. We start way down in the lower right corner of the map, which I think will be a little bit of a change from campaigns that we have run in the past. And this lord is all about the Hellforge and the demon units. Drazhoath is himself a demon smith, which is a thing because the Chaos Dwarves don't just make deals with existing demons. Why would you do that when you can build your own? And you're going to see what that means as we get in here. Let's just go ahead and get it rolling. In his youth, the fearsome demon smith Drazhoath lost favor among the sorcerer prophets, a victim of the savage politics of Jar-Nagrund. For this, he was exiled from the heart of the Chaos Dwarf Empire to the Black Fortress, in the distant reaches south of the Mountains of Morn. Drazhoath has since risen to become Lord of the Black Fortress and Commander of the Legion of Asgore. Those are definitely meaningful things, I'm sure. We'll find out what they mean. From his border citadel near the banks of the mighty River Ruin. Looking again to the Tower of Fire, he seeks revenge against those that exiled him. A method for Drazhoath the Ancient to return home now presents itself, not as a penitent pilgrim, but as the rightful and irrefutably brutal Lord of Jar-Nagrund. So this word here, Jar, this is the Kazlid word for fire. You're going to be seeing this mixed in with stuff a lot. It's a very sort of shadow and flame kind of faction. But as you can see, there's a lot of like I want to say almost like Industrial Revolution flavor mixed in there. A lot of big, powerful steam machines. And then, like, if you can jam a demon inside of the machine, obviously you should do that, right? Why would you not do that?
Echoed throughout the mines of the Dwarves is a legend of immeasurable power hidden deep under the mountains. A liquid magic so potent it can raise entire cities, leaving nothing but cinders and ash. Eager to exploit this power, the sorcerer prophets of Zarnagrund sought to reach the source of this demonic substance. The domain of their malign god, Hashut, the father of darkness. For centuries they dug, exhausting countless workers as they delved deeper than the mountain roots themselves. 2 ashen moons ago, in the depths of the darkest pit, a discovery was made. A trickle of pure power, a crimson seam divining a way through the rocky layers to where Hashut dwells. And so, it was bottled in a vessel of infernal design, rushed to the surface through the fires of industry, to the highest authority. In the council chambers of Drazhoath the Ashen, it was presented. Roiling with unholy energy, its gloriously terrible glow glinted in the eyes of all who set their gaze upon it. The blood of Hashut. Very few vials had ever been extracted from the mines. The key to limitless power.
Hashut Abu Mazuma Zarastarun Takminu Isbolg.
Drazhoath, Lord of the Black Fortress, roared to the god of darkness. And he replied. Ancient channels etched in rock flow with molten fury. A great drill shall be constructed, forged in the dread fires of the Darklands, imbued with strength to bore through the bedrock and breach a godly domain.
Uswil Shabbat.
The forge burns. The fires catch from the depths. The Chaos Dwarves will rise.
Yeah, okay, there you go. That's the vibe. Apologies for the sound dropping out for a second there. Something else on my computer suddenly grabbed focus.
The center of power. But another grows to challenge it. For in the south lies the Black Fortress. Ruled by the exiled sorcerer Drazhoath, it has recently come under threat from hungry, migrating ogres. They pour forth from the mountains and should be stopped at all costs. Yet this threat will be of little consequence once the Great Drill is operational and fully powered.
Izan Kazan Tajar Nachgrand. Abdar Nurunleth Mbulna.
Okay, and this is how we begin. Ogres are definitely a real concern for a dwarf. An ogre can eat an awful lot of dwarves in every meal.
Is made ready at a speed so furious, it becomes a mass graveyard for hundreds of exhausted workers. Expendable lives, for only the drill is of concern. The remaining construction must be imbued with dark sorcery, for the blood of her Shut lies not only in the darkest depths of the world, but in a godly domain where no mortal engine can reach it. 4 dwarf relics are required, each to be corrupted in the forges of the demon smiths. Only then shall the drill summon power enough to shatter solid rock and the foundations of reality itself. As the abhorrent relics lie undiscovered, a sacrifice must be undertaken to gain Hashut's blessing and reveal their locations.
Okay. Well, first of all, we got to build ourselves a great drill, obviously. Seems pretty straightforward. Apologies. Apparently my mute button is bound to one of the map movement keys, so that's going to have to change. But here we go. This is the basic idea. Let's just jump the camera back over here to where the action is. And also rotate it, because I only know the Warhammer map with north at the top. Alright. So, we have kind of a complicated system going on here. There's a lot of different resources and stuff. We have to fight battles to gather the necessary labor to maximize the efficiency of our economy. They're going to use the word labor a lot. These slaves. These are slaves. The Chaos Dwarves themselves do not do any of the work. Of course, it's nightmarish and often lethal. They press other peoples into that. Mostly greenskins, but also just kind of whatever prisoners we can take in battle. And then we have this sort of complicated setup of... Here, we're going to close this for the moment. We have this sort of complicated setup of settlements with 3 different kinds of settlement structures. So we have access to towers, factories, and outposts. And each settlement we're going to set it up as one of those 3 things. So outposts enable the extraction of raw materials. This is what we use the labor for. Then once we have the raw materials, they go to a factory settlement to be forged into armaments. We use armaments to outfit our fanciest troops and to do, you know, like R&D, basically, to invent better and more powerful weapons. And then the towers are used to gain conclave influence. This raw materials, armaments, and conclave influence here. This is more of a sort of social or religious resource, it seems like, and I don't really know how this works. We're gonna figure out all of this ruling council stuff eventually, but yeah, we'll do that together. It's fine. We'll work it out over time. Right now, we've started with a tower and an outpost here, and you can see this this province of Noblar country is currently split between us with 2 of the settlements and the Thunderguts ogres who own the other 2. We're going to have to fix that in a real hurry. Once we own the entire province, in addition to just having more space to build things and more bodies to exploit, we'll be able to take advantage of powerful bonuses for the whole province. So this is definitely our first goal. And first goal, sub-step 1 is, hey, look, it's an army of ogres. Let's do something about that. So we have our own army right here, led by Drazhoath the Ashen. Armies are always led by a lord in Total War Warhammer. And you can tell an army because it's got a big flag with a little bar next to it that represents how close to maximum like fullness the army is. Armies can hold up to 20 units of fighters. Obviously, at the beginning of the game here, everybody's armies are small and weak. There are also on the map going to be agents, like this guy, Luktaz the Bronze.
Dalet Castellan.
What's your deal, Luktaz?
Atsu Umadrat.
You're an Infernal Castellan, which is a guy with a big rifle that is also an axe. That's pretty slick. He is volatile. Okay, so some extra melee stats here. Units in Total War Warhammer have a lot of combat stats. Don't worry, you don't need to understand all of how these things interact just yet to understand what's going on in the battles. We'll talk about stuff as we go on. Every character has a level as they participate in battles and stuff. They'll gain XP, they'll level up, they'll earn skill points, we'll fill in their skill trees, you know, very common like RPG type character design. For right now, we're not going to worry about the specifics of what's going on here too much. We're going to fold this hero into this army. Want him present at this battle, and let's go murder some ogres. And we're just going to jump right into this. For the most part, you know, we'll let the computer auto-resolve easy battles, but I like to always play the first one just to like get a feel for my troops here. So you can see our army is made up of about half real fighters, like the actual Chaos Dwarves, more Chaos Dwarves with guns down here, and half, quote-unquote, laborers, armored basically just in chains and loincloths with whatever cheaply made weapons we could find around to give them. They're going to form sort of our infantry corps, which is to say we're going to use them as meat shields while the Chaos Dwarves, you know, set up firing positions and whatnot. It's pretty grim. Like I said, we're very much the bad guys here. The ogres, though, also the bad guys, and also kind of have a similar vibe with their Noblars serving as expendable infantry here. Let's start by looking at our opponents for the battle. So an ogre army is made up of two parts, basically. You get your crummy little Noblars who are just going to like try to hold our units in place. And then once our units are tied up by these guys, you have the ogres who are 15 feet tall and terrifyingly powerful. And the idea here is they just use their incredible mass and reach to plow into your units and obliterate you from the sides and the back while the Noblars have your attention. That plan is not going to work on us. Hopefully. I'll be very embarrassed if it does, especially after I just described it and everything. Let's pull all of our units out to an open space here so we can have a look at them. So first things first, the laborers. Like I said, we have here our orcish laborers. If you're not familiar with Total War Warhammer, suffice to say these numbers are low. They are bad combatants. They are not very motivated to fight for the Empire, and also we've not really given them any equipment or training or anything. One thing that I do think is interesting about these is the orc laborers are actually very good at striking through armor. Most of their damage is armor piercing, which is unusual for like cannon fodder type units. So that's pretty cool. We also have a couple units of goblin laborers who are basically just worse than orc laborers in every way, but also they're probably cheaper. We haven't really talked about the economics of running armies yet, but that's going to dominate the campaign. Don't worry, we'll have time. Yeah, so that's sort of our cannon fodder, the ones that we will be hoping to take most of the brunt of the ogre assault on. Then we have our units that are made up of actual Chaos Dwarves. So you can see here, we've got those fire glaives, same kind of weapon that the hero's using. There's a big rifle with an axe on it. In addition, much better just like base melee stats than the laborers. These units are actually pretty good at melee combat, which is unusual for gun units. The Chaos Dwarves have an interesting, like, heavy hybrid infantry thing going on. So you can see here the range of their weapon drawn on the battlefield. These are our like long-range rifle troops. We also have a unit of blunderbuss troops, much shorter range, but their weapons fire like a spray of projectiles, a lot better at just like clearing out groups of massed up infantry. You can see their melee stats are also pretty decent, a little bit less good than the fire glaives, but yeah, still overall like good heavy-ish infantry. We have our two characters, of course, with all of their special fancy stuff, and again, very impressive headwear. And then finally, we have our Kadai. These things are forged demons, like part demon, part living fire, animated entirely by anger. This is our secret weapon. This is the special thing. Now these guys have pretty okay melee stats, kind of similar to the blunderbuss units. But what's important to note here is, first of all, they hit much harder with each strike, and secondly, you can see this bonus versus infantry 20 down at the bottom. That is a bonus to both the damage of each strike and their melee attack when fighting that particular kind of unit. At 52 melee attack, they will absolutely tear these ogres to pieces if we can just get them engaged properly. And they have sort of like middling armor. They have a little bit of physical resistance and some special demon stats. Their bodies are on fire. It's a bad idea to punch a being that's made out of fire. That's interesting to note. So the way we're going to set up here, let's try to take maximum advantage of these firearms. We have this skull here, this impassable terrain that I'm going to use to our advantage. So we'll set up our gunners, just to have like nice open fire across the hill. A little bit of space between them, and we'll keep the goblins in here ready to run forward. Just surround them basically with units that can run forward and take the charge when it is time to take the charge. Do the Fireborn, can we hide them in the trees? No, okay. I think they're too large. Large units often cannot be hidden by small terrain features like this. Well then, I'm not 100% sure how I think the ogres are going to charge. These things are relatively quick. I'm just going to kind of keep them back in reserve. Our Lord has pretty decent combat stats. Also a considerable bonus versus infantry. So actually, despite the fact that he's a wizard, we are definitely going to put him like on the front line here. And then our other hero is a rifle unit, and we're going to just stack him up with the rifles. All right, let's start the battle. Listen, these ogres don't have a lot of like fancy tactics. They're gonna just run at us, and these guns are gonna do what these guns do. So every unit on the battlefield has 2 bars visible. Green for us on the top, red for our enemies on the top is health. The white bar below that is leadership. This is like the morale of a unit. Units give up and run away if their leadership bottoms out. You're going to see once the gunfire starts, it has a tendency to leech the leadership of your enemies pretty quickly. I'm going to have our Lord stay focused on, or our hero stay focused on their Lord. A great way to damage enemy leadership is to kill their commander on the battlefield. Managing leadership is very, very important. Okay, they're bringing the ogres in pretty fast here. I think it's time to close some melee in front. And I'm going to move these guys up a little bit. We don't need to charge in yet. I don't want our blunderbusses to get charged by the ogres, but you can see we've already done just a huge amount of damage. The ogres are very poorly armored, and they're big. They're just a big target. Let's have the Fireborn. I'm going to see, maybe we can have the Fireborn run like around the skull and flank. Also, we didn't talk about the magic yet. We have a wizard, and I don't even know what our spells do. So we have this Burning Wrath, which is just a magic missile, just burning damage. And then Dark Subjugation, which reduces the leadership and melee defense of an enemy unit. Makes them very easy to kill in melee combat. Let's try out this Burning Wrath. Let's shoot it at the other unit of incoming ogres here. The one that hasn't already received the suffering. Okay, it's a pretty slow travel. And we're gonna move our Lord around here and try to approach via the side. And it looks like Okay, so let's talk about this situation real quick. I moved one of our groups of goblins forward just to get in the way, to slow down the ogres, so that our blunderbusses would have more time to shoot into the mass here. They got flanked by the enemy goblins. Sorry, Noblars, totally not goblins, definitely distinct, and immediately gave up. You can see the morale bar is completely empty. So the biggest things that drop morale quickly. First of all, obviously, losses. Units dying, your bodies hitting the ground, obviously has an effect on morale. But also, getting charged from the rear or getting shot at in the rear and the flanks can cause units to panic. And goblins have very, very poor leadership. They will freak out over absolutely anything. So we're going to have to deal with that. Our side is just sort of opened here. I'm going to try to roll. Their lord just charged right into our fire glaives, and I don't necessarily think that's a big deal in terms of the damage he's going to deal, but I'd much rather have these fire glaives shooting at people. So let's see if we can distract him. 45 attack, 42 defense against his 40, 48. You know what? I'm going to swap our hero into melee mode. Our hero is going to occupy his time. We're going to use our goblins to charge their Noblars and hopefully recreate that same effect on them. And then you can see here, every time we cast a spell, we use some of our Winds of Magic Reserve here. I'm going to go ahead and cast Dark Subjugation. Let's dump the leadership and melee defense of those goblins, so when they receive the charge, it like shatters them immediately. Do your best to disengage. I'm actually not sure that our units are going to get this this surround move done in time. So the blunderbusses are still going to shoot into the sides of the enemies for the most part, which is working out very well for us. See, a couple of the ogres are getting into melee, but there simply aren't enough of them left to make a difference, I think. Here comes the demon charge. Look at that. Just bottomed out all of their morale meters immediately. And that's all it takes. You don't actually have to kill your enemies. You just have to get them all to decide to leave the battlefield at the same time. You know what? Let's swap you back to ranged mode. The battle's over, and we could just abandon the field at any time here. But I want to make sure their lord's actually dead before we do so. Just a little bit of extra XP for us. A little bit of extra letting them know who is the boss. But yeah, that went pretty smoothly. We took some damage on our cannon fodder units as expected. A decisive victory. Listen, I'm not going to pretend that I did anything there. There was always only one possible outcome for that battle. So you can see here the kill counts of our various units. Units, like your characters, do get experience and they do level up. They don't have like skill trees and stuff, but extra levels of combat experience will give them greater stats. So it does matter. It's important to try to level up your good units, and especially units that are going to serve as the linchpins of your strategy, like our gunners. And you can see these little bronze chevrons here indicating that they did in fact gain a level from the battle. I don't remember exactly which stats are gained on level up, but it's a lot of the important, like determining whether or not you hit the enemy type stats. So you can see here we took 78 labor. They had some money, got some XP for our hero, and we found a Dawnstone, which is a pretty powerful piece of equipment. So we can take the rest of the captives back to work. We can try to ransom them. These are pretty small amounts of money, I think. Well, I think we're good on labor, though. You know what? Let's take the money. Our mines are already at capacity. Ransoming these captives would be more efficient. Alright, and that army is well and truly toast. So you can see here the green line on the map here indicates how much further we can move this turn, with a further green line indicating how much further we can move if we were to kick the army over into march stance. There's a bunch of different stances here that do different things. We're not going to worry about them for right now. Pardon. Like I said, I will unbind that button from camera control between episodes. So we have enough movement to make it to Shattered Stone Bay. Let's just go and claim that as well. Alright, here we're predicting a close victory. They have way more ogres this time, and our units are already looking a little soft, but listen, good enough for me. Take that auto-resolve. Generally speaking, the auto-resolver performs worse than the player does. You can see we took a lot more losses that time, but whatever, it's fine. So, we've captured this settlement. I really appreciate this. It tells you what your other settlements in the region are, so that you know what kind of thing to turn it into. We could just burn it down, or sack it and flee with the goods. This settlement doesn't really have anything of value in it, so it feels like a silly option. Or we could turn it into either an outpost or a factory. Only major settlements, like the province capitals, can be turned into towers, I think. Well, we already have an outpost. Let's make a factory. Just so that we have one of each. And we gained another Dawnstone from that battle. Okay, cool. So, let's talk about equipment and stuff. Our characters have gained a level each. The sort of the general idea here is that the yellow skills are skills that improve the combat effectiveness of that unit personally. The red skills on lords are skills that affect the other units in the army. It'll give them buffs of various kinds. And then the blue skills are skills that affect stuff you do on the strategy map, like how far you can move, or when you take attrition damage from moving through unfriendly terrain, stuff like that. We're going to start with Route Marcher, because there is very little that is more important to me than campaign movement range. You can't participate in battles if you can't catch your enemies, you know. And then over here you can see we have a bunch of equipment slots. We have these ancillary slots are where we'll acquire like a retinue of followers that give us various bonuses. And also, as a legendary lord, Drazhoath will get quests to acquire his legendary equipment as he continues to level up. We'll worry about that stuff when we get there. Luktaz has also gained a level. Oh no, okay, that's weird. We did not acquire a second Dawnstone. It just automatically equipped our other Dawnstone after that battle for some reason. I mean, that's fine. Drazhoath is way more likely to be engaged in melee. Generally, I think. He can have it. So, Luktaz. Luktaz, obviously, buffing his combat stats is significant, but he has the ability to increase the movement range of the army that he's in, and I think that's what we're going to focus on first, because, again, movement. Movement is the thing. So, let's have a look at the buildings and stuff in our province here. We took over Shatterstone Bay, which is a dock, and so its first building slot is always occupied by the port. Ports generate money, generally. This one doesn't actually generate any income by itself, but it improves your income from refinery buildings in the region. So I'm assuming we'll build refineries once we have more slots open here. How do we... Okay, we need to get raw materials to build up the base level of our factory. The base levels of our outposts are just improved with gold. Okay. And the towers are also built up with raw materials. Okay. That makes sense, because the outposts are your way of getting raw materials. So if they also required raw materials, you could find yourself in a position where you just can't do anything. Interesting to note that the growth mechanic that most races have just doesn't feature here at all. Something to keep an eye on, I suppose. So we got to get some raw materials flowing, right? What can we do with this? We can build a basic hobgoblin mustering camp here, which will give us access to hobgoblin units. Hobgoblins are like goblins, but bigger, basically. They're like more man-sized, like 6 feet-ish. And it looks like their combat stats are, yeah, they're okay. 28 attack, 28 defense. They have shields and stuff. Honestly, I'm not super concerned. Well, actually, what kinds of things can we recruit right now? So we could recruit more units of laborers. We could recruit a couple more units of chaos dwarves. For the moment, I think that's going to be fine. Let's build an economic building here instead of a military one. So in the infrastructure category, we have raw material production. 200 more per turn is tripling our current outputs. That feels like the right way to go. And this will just generate raw gold. There's also this building, which gives, okay, guard towers and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. And then here we have our defensive structures, which will allow more units to stay in the garrison of the settlement to defend it should it get attacked. For the moment, I think let's focus on materials, right? That seems like the thing. Our army is out of movement and is just going to stay in the settlement for the turn. Winning a battle at a settlement and taking it over spends all of your movement anyway. And you can see the little yellow bit of the health bar here is how much each of these units will recover over the turn. So we can also upgrade this, but if we do, that's almost all of our money. What's it going to cost to recruit some more units here? I do want to power up this army. Looks pretty expensive. So we can grab, you can see here, we have pretty tight unit caps right now because we can't generate a lot of good equipment yet. We can build some Chaos Dwarf Warriors with axes and shields or with big two-handed axes. So 30 attack, 44 melee defense. These ones also have silver shields. Block 55% of small arms fire from the front. We're not really fighting units that have a lot of competent ranged attacks. So if we go for the big axes, we trade off 10 points of melee defense for more charge bonus and more damage per hit. And it doesn't make this clear, but note, these weapons have a different spread of armor-piercing damage versus non-armor-piercing damage. For these guys, the majority of it goes through armor. Let's just get the great axes. We have people who receive charges already. The laborers. So there's a few slots here for local recruitment. Give me another unit of orc laborers as well. That's quite a lot of our money occupied for the turn there. And we have an open slot in the fortress as well. So this is our drilling building. In order to build the high-powered drill assembly line, which is our first mission objective, we have to get the settlement to level 2 first. You can see the way these buildings are broken up. The main settlement structure of the settlement has to be at a certain level before you can build upgrades. So while we're waiting for that to happen, we have basic military stuff here, hobgoblins and chaos dwarves. The purple is the advanced military stuff. This is going to require armaments, but this is where you get all your good things like your various cannons and your demon smith sorcerers and your destroyers. Can't actually build any of those yet. Infrastructure, right? I mean, this has got to be all it is. We are going to need some income to make the Empire run. This is like half of our raw materials here. The patrol routes are definitely interesting, but they only apply, the movement bonus only applies within our own land, which obviously is of somewhat more limited use. All right, there's also technology, because this game has a lot of mechanics. In fact, Oh, cool. There's 3 different tech trees. Okay, well, we gotta have our scientists working on something. So, military improvements. We can reduce the upkeep and improve the melee attack of our laborers and our basic hobgoblins. Or improve the fighting stats of our chaos dwarves. Obviously, the chaos dwarves make a much bigger impact, but there's also a lot fewer of them. We could eventually follow this line into upgrades for our ranged units. Then sort of more general upgrades for our chaos dwarves. There's a lot of stuff here. There is a general movement range increase here. Those are very powerful. Also, units getting recruited at a higher rank and getting more experience in general is a big deal. Maybe we should start with Call to War. This seems okay. I actually am curious, though. What is the low-tier stuff in the other trees? The sorcery tree lets us pursue some extra control and campaign line of sight. We'll talk about control later. It's not going to matter right away. But it is important. It will matter eventually. And then here in the industry tab... Okay, what you would expect. One side of the thing is dedicated to using your labor. The other side is dedicated toward the actual outputs, probably. Oh, convoys. We have to talk about convoys still, too. I don't have any idea how those work. We have so many mechanics. You know what? We're gonna start with Call to War. It'll take 2 turns to research. We can make some of these decisions later. So, at this point, we're allowed to end the turn, but we still have so many buttons left to press. Let's take a minute here and investigate our UI a little bit more. The labor economy panel is locked until you have at least 2 provinces. Okay, so if this number drops below 100%, you do not have enough labor to fill all of your mines. Fair enough. We can see here the income rate of our raw materials and our armaments and our conclave influence. And here, the Great Drill of Hashut screen, which just tells us, hey, build that drill assembly line, and then we'll get started. Okay, concerns for the future. Down here, we have our mission objectives, both our current small missions and our overall win the game objectives. To win the campaign victory, build the... Yeah, okay, all right, fine. Everybody wants us to build this damn drill. We have a diplomacy button here we'll worry about later. Military convoys, which become available on turn 5. Fair enough. The Tower of Jar, which becomes accessible once you have enough influence. And finally, the Old Hellforge. Okay, so this is the screen where we can spend our armaments to increase the number of various types of units we're allowed to have. And as we increase our capacity for those unit types, we also unlock upgrades for those unit types in the manufactory. So right now we can recruit pretty small numbers of everything, provided that we have suitable recruitment buildings. It looks to me like the thing I would most want to do is like acquire more guns quickly, and we're just going to have to save up armaments before we can do that. That said, if I'm reading this correctly, we can currently have up to 4 total units of melee infantry, and if we get this number up to 5, we can unlock the ability for them to have Frenzy, which is a very powerful buff. By the way, this is a new thing with the update that accompanies the Chaos Dwarves, the nested tooltips. I appreciate this so much. This is such a good quality of life increase. Yeah, I actually would really like our melee units to have Frenzy. It's a very powerful buff. So you know what? Let's increase our basic Chaos Dwarf Warrior stock by 1. Alright, so that unlocks the Manufactory tab. Okay. Forgecraft options are applied to entire categories of units. For an upkeep, unit categories can only have a limited number of Forgecraft lines active from the list at once. Enhancements remain active as long as the armament's upkeep can be met to keep lines in production. Okay, so it's not a one-time cost. It's a thing we're going to have to keep paying for. The armaments upkeep cost is multiplied by the number of units you have across your armies in that category. So this could get very expensive very quickly then. We probably do not actually want to turn this on yet. All right, good to know. Important to understand the systems. And with that, I think we are actually going to end the turn. So all that remains to take the rest of this province is to claim scrap towers over here. We know that there are more ogres in this area. So we saw them during that like opening map sweep. So I guess that's what we're doing next. So up at the top of the screen here, you can see the game flipping through the turns of all of the other factions. It's a big game. There are a lot of enemies out there. Okay, damn. Calm down. So we will receive missions occasionally here. This one's pretty easy. Just fight 3 battles to get a 5-turn buff to all of your labor and also 1,500 gold. Seems pretty good. All life other than that of the Dwarves only has value as a resource, a commodity of muscle and sinew to be amassed, exploited, and spent. Even now, the need for fresh labor increases with time, the vast industries of your isolated empire ever hungering for more. So again, kind of there's definitely a little bit of an industrial revolution vibe here going on, but also just kind of a general capitalism vibe. Like I said, evil. So we can acquire labor from battles, from running military convoys, and from raiding. Basically like taking civilian captives in enemy territory. That's stuff we're definitely going to do. That's going to happen over time. We don't really need to worry about that. Also, construct a building from the mine chain in an outpost to produce raw materials. Okay, this is a mission we will also do just kind of automatically. Your characters get a certain amount of passive experience per turn. Looks like that was just enough to push Drazhoath up another level. So there's a lot of directions we could take him here. We could focus on improving our troops or his own combat prowess or whatever. With a wizard lord, I generally like to focus on the magic first. This line here will teach us additional spells and improve our existing spells. So let's open it up by spending another point on Burning Wrath, giving us the ability to overcast it for extra cost and effect. Alright, we are not fast enough to make it to Scrap Towers this turn. What we can do, though, is just move right to the edge of our own territory. As long as we stay inside of friendly territory, we'll still get some unit replenishment. It's not as good as being inside a city, but it's something. And also, we can continue to do local recruitment here. We increased our Chaos Dwarf unit caps. Let's get some more of those. And yeah, the orcs cost about twice as much per turn to maintain as the goblins do. But also, they seem so much more effective, right? You probably do need just like a certain amount of bodies in total, though, to keep the enemy off of the guns. Well, we have Chaos Dwarf Warriors for dealing our actual damage. Let's grab some goblins. Just cannon fodder. Alright, so we'll recruit those over the turn. There's a camp here, which we also will need to burn down to force the Thunderguts back. Let's actually go to the diplomacy screen here real quick. Hey, Thunderguts. Pardon me, little coughing fit there. Okay, this is what I was looking for. This screen allows us to see the number of settlements they control. So Scrap Tower is the only settlement they have left on the map. If we take it from them, we will almost certainly be able to wipe them out. Yeah. High priority. Definitely the thing to focus on next turn. I don't think we have anything else terribly pressing to do right now. Oh, you know what? We have the money to upgrade Flayed Rock even with our recruits. Let's go ahead and do that. Bumping this up will, first of all, allow us to upgrade our existing buildings to tier 2 within the settlement, but also it will unlock the next building slot. And that is going to take 5 turns. You can rush construction with the Chaos Dwarves by spending a bunch of your laborers. Right now, we only have 611. So, how exactly do I read this? So we have 611 labor in the area. We have a workload of 100. So you want to have at least your workload value. And our workload is about to increase by 300. Yeah, okay, I don't want to rush this. Let's go ahead and let it resolve slowly. What would it cost to rush this? You know what? Let's go ahead and do... Is there value in that? Because it's going to finish at the beginning of the next turn anyway. I'm not really clear on whether this will finish before our incomes are figured out. We'll just let it happen naturally. Let's not burn the labor just yet. Go ahead and end the turn. So for the moment, we don't see any more armies from the Thunderguts. You would imagine that they would be building up a new army to defend themselves, given that they just lost theirs. So I'm assuming that it will be over here at Scrap Towers. When we get closer, we'll be able to see it. We did successfully build that raw materials building. Hooray! Here's some labor and some gold for us. The desolation of 1,000 years of labor already fills your corner of the dark lands, where industry tears at the earth, pockmarking the surface with the scars of enterprise. Continue these endeavors and reap the rewards. Yep, so just get more raw materials. We are well on our way. That will be accomplished next turn, if nothing changes. We got our call to war. That's excellent. Another new mission, construct a building from the assembly line chain in a factory settlement. Okay, we will totally do that. What does it take to upgrade the factory? 750. Okay, so we'll be able to embark on that next turn. Some of our units are still very badly injured, but we have a massive numbers advantage here. Let's go burn down their camp real fast. Ah, there's that army. So we'll go ahead and take our decisive victory. It's going to shuffle out some of our units here, and we probably could manually resolve this without losing those units. But also, I don't know that I care. We'll just take the auto-resolve on these really trivial battles. You know, we have to balance like the little bit of benefit from fighting manually against the expenditure of our actual human time. And we'll ransom those captives. So we killed the leader of the camp, Cog, who is, I don't know, somebody. Some random ogre that we never knew. All right, so we have 3 additional spells here. Dark Subjugation we already know, but we can improve it and learn to overcast it. Ash Storm gives enemies a speed reduction and a weakness to fire damage, which obviously is a thing we can take advantage of with our fire demons and whatnot. Choking, scalding, blinding, superheated ash streams across the battlefield. That's pretty grim. And the Curse of Hashut is a direct damage over time spell. Okay. We also have access to Killing Fire. So the first skill in the first box of a spellcaster's tree is always some kind of passive effect that triggers whenever they cast. So here in this case, it's every time Drazhoath casts a spell, it just does some damage to all of the enemies within 55 meters of him. You know what? That seems pretty good. We have a couple of cheap low cooldown spells already. This is just going to be damage that adds up over the course of a battle. Our hero has also leveled up. As you can see, we can't take the later ranks of this skill until we have leveled up a little bit more. So for now, let's focus on what we can take. A lot of skills are locked by level, a lot of the more impressive stuff. So early on, we're going to have pretty limited choices here. And we have just enough movement to catch up with Glondog here. I think we may as well. Cowardice. I mean, whatever. I'm okay with it. I'm gonna make our first use of a stance here. I'm gonna kick our army into march stance. So we're tired. We can't initiate battle. We fight worse, but get a little bit of bonus movement. And I'm just gonna run over here far enough. I think it'll be very difficult for Glondog. Yeah, he won't be able to catch up to us with his normal movement range anymore. So Scrap Towers is ours, basically. And now that we've researched Call to War, we can pick up a bonus to the damage of our shooting units. You know, we don't have a lot of them yet, but this does seem awfully good eventually. We definitely want to get martial training as soon as we can, but that's a lot of armaments. Maybe we want to pursue some of this stuff first. Yeah, you know what? Quotas must be met. If it's got a pulse, get it onto the production line. Again, not condoning, etc. So we have a bunch of money, but we don't really have anything to do with it. We can't recruit while we're in march stance, but we also wouldn't be able to recruit normally here because we're not in friendly territory to gather troops from. So, yeah. Another fairly short turn. Interesting. He's going to go on the offensive, he thinks. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure that's a plan that's doomed to failure. Ogres are not known for their strategic acumen, you know? Alright, so we hit our 700 raw materials. Once again, just a bunch of early game rewards. Right, I have to go back into normal stance to be able to initiate combat. And let's claim Scrap Towers. A decisive victory. We're going to lose all of our goblins. You know, that's just kind of the way of it. That's how this goes. So we're going to scoop this one up. It's important that we don't run out of raw materials, right? So I'm gonna err on the side of too much mining, I think. Let's make this one an outpost. And we've secured the entire province. Easy. So now that that's done, we have access to a commandment here. Bonus control. You can see right now our control is failing. As control deteriorates, we take penalties to all of our settlements. If it ever gets to -100, we will have a rebellion spawn. The workers will rise up and try to violently throw us out of our settlements. I'm not a big fan of that, but you can see a lot of what our current lack of control is coming from is provincial instability. Problem is just where you know, there's war happening in the province. Things are getting violently overthrown. It'll settle down a little bit. I'm not going to stress about it just right now. So let's not worry about that commandment. Bonus income from refinery and armaments. We don't actually have any of those yet. Bonus recruit rank for armies in the province recruiting troops. We might go to military doctrine here. Or minus 10% gold construction cost for all buildings. I mean, we're definitely going to do a little bit of recruiting. Oh, I recruited the wrong kind of Chaos Dwarves. Silly me. You know what? Let's go ahead and put the province in bonus recruit mode. It takes one turn for the commandment to come into effect. So I'm going to recruit. We do have access to basic hobgoblins now. Because Scrap Towers has a recruitment building in it already. So the units that we recruit this turn won't benefit from the bonus ranks. It's probably going to be like, this is a good turn to just like refill with goblin laborers. And then we'll recruit better troops next turn. Next turn when we have our bonus. Drazhoath leveled up again. We already have a lot of options for damage. I'm definitely more interested in picking up... What does Dark Subjugation become when it's upgraded? When you overcast it, it has an extended duration. 35 seconds with a cooldown of 31 seconds. Wow, that actually... That is pretty powerful. And if we take the final skill point in the skill, it reduces the cooldown even further and reduces the Winds of Magic costs, so you can use it way more often. How much is Ash Storm? 10. 10 is fairly hefty. To be perfectly honest with you, what I want to do most is upgrade Burning Wrath again, but upgrading Burning Wrath doesn't fill this box with skill points, and filling this box with skill points is how we get to move forward and take the more powerful stuff. So I definitely do want to stay focused in here. You know what? Let's go ahead and improve Dark Subjugation. It seems very powerful. And now that you have Survivalist, you've opened up your second box here, so we can go for bonus leadership, more ammunition, more melee attack, or more missile strength. I mean, I would hope that we're mostly going to get to make use of the gun. Alright, let's upgrade Shattered Stone Base so that we can actually build a refinery. And then we have the gold to push for... Yeah, may as well, right? We're going to make back half of that next turn. We'll do a lot of recruitment. Yeah. Alright, so now there's just that one ogre army that remains that is all of what the Thunderguts player has. With no settlements to derive supplies from, that army is going to be undergoing some pretty severe attrition damage, so they're going to have to make a move to reclaim some land pretty quickly here. Alright, convoy routes out of the Darklands are now available for use in the Military Convoys panel. And if we complete a trade with the Military Convoy, we will get stuff. Okay. Let's focus up, though, a little bit here. Also complete... Yeah, we have like 1 million. We'll worry about these little missions later. What they did was they deployed a camp to hunt and gather food.
Drazhoath.
Well, we'll just have to put a stop to that. So this whole region is my territory now. We can recruit anywhere inside of it. And here's their little camp. Alright, we can't quite reach them to attack them this turn anyway. Let's bring in, so you can see, we are now recruiting unit rank 2 people. The stat bonuses are not huge, but they are meaningful. Here's a question. Do I want to kick out these Chaos Dwarf warriors and hire in Great Weapon warriors like I intended? I think so. So we'll disband you. Grab one of these guys at rank 2 already. Hobgoblin Sneaky Gits. Let's look at these stats here. So they have a precursor missile weapon with poison on it, apparently. So they have a missile weapon they use as their closing. And then they have some pretty basic combat stats. They have a bonus versus infantry, which is always nice. Poisoned melee attacks as well. So poison in this game does not deal damage over time. It just applies this debuff effect. But that's still quite powerful. And they do bonus damage as long as they are above 50 HP. So they, these are not stand and fight units. These are flank and hit the enemy in the backside units. How fast are they? Only 35 speed. So they're not actually very good at moving around. Oh, but they have stalk. So they can move stealthily even on open terrain as long as the enemies aren't too close to them. Okay, yeah, apply stealth. I see how you would do this. We have flaming arrow archers here, which are interesting. Let's I feel like we have a fair amount of stand and fight units. Maybe. We probably want our Chaos Dwarves to mostly be attacking from behind. You know what? Let's get a couple units of these shielded cutthroats. These cutthroats that are designed to just, like, stand in front of the enemy. I want to see how they hold up. This increases the speed of building ports. And, I mean, obviously, we're going to be building upgrades to our existing port over time, so that will benefit from this. Do we want to just keep pushing up the economic track for the moment while we're figuring things out? I think so. Accessing this side branch here costs a lot of raw materials, but it does make it faster and cheaper to build buildings, and eventually increases our raw material output somewhat. I guess that's a reasonable direction to go in. I don't have any kind of like long game strategy here. All right, let's see how these convoys work. Let's create a new convoy. So we recruit a convoy master to run the thing. It has military stats because presumably, you know, it could get attacked. You have cannonry experience. So you have additional war machines. You are a master of bull centaurs. And you will, okay. I don't really, bull centaurs obviously are like heavy cavalry. A bull centaur is a pretty weird thing if you've never seen one before. It is a centaur, but it's a centaur of a chaos dwarf. So it's like the back half is a bull or a cow, and the front half is one of these dudes with a big hat on. It is a little bit silly looking. You know, I'm a big fan of cannons generally. Let's hire this guy to run a convoy for us. Okay, mostly chaos dwarf units, some fancy infernal guard, and a hell cannon. So where do we want to send it to? Okay, we can send it to major economic cities. We send out a certain number of armaments and we bring back a certain amount of labor. Oh, actually, we bring back different things from different places. So if we sent it to here, we'd be buying raw materials. If we sent it to here, we'd be exchanging armaments for labor. If we sent it to Castle Drakenhof, we'd be exchanging armaments for gold. Gosh, I have no idea what we actually want. I feel like maybe paying gold for raw materials is a good idea at this point, because we're going to need to do a lot of upgrading. Yeah. All right, where is the like best deal for that? I don't know, it seems like just going up to Titan's Notch is as good as anywhere. 119, oh no, the Volary is better. All right, you know what, arbitrarily, let's just do this. So outgoing, we can put out more gold if we'd like. Yeah, sure, bring me back some raw materials. The thing is, this is a lot of gold, and this is only like a turn and a half of raw materials. I'm assuming there are other benefits. We make, this is like a half a turn of gold income though. Yeah, it's fine. Dispatch. So, okay. 9 turns until they've completed their journey, assuming they don't get completely annihilated on the way. What a weird little system. We'll grasp the finer points of this stuff more closely as time goes on. So Thorg is staying pretty close to his camp. He's going to try to defend it. We are going to punish him for the hubris of that. So yeah, his army is mostly made of Noblars. These Noblars have throwing knives at least. So, you know, they're learning something from us. They're like, hey, ranged attacks. That's pretty smart. I mean, there's no way. There's no way they can defend against even just the force we have right here. Let's just crush them. Alright, this says close victory. I feel like it should be a pretty dominating. But yeah, like, obviously, you've seen how they fight. We stole their scroll of shielding, which allows us to gain a pretty hefty amount of damage resistance once per battle. That's cool. And all of these rewards are kind of crummy. There just weren't that many captives. I guess I'll take the money. All right, your characters will earn traits based on the things they actually do in the campaign over time. So beating up a lot of ogres has made Drazhoath particularly good at fighting ogres, or motivating his army to fight ogres. And hey, that's the tutorial basically completed. We've secured our own first province, we've wiped out our first enemy, and at this point, I think we have a lot of sort of room to direct ourselves. I'm going to take this final Dark Subjugation upgrade, make that as cheap and fast to use as possible so that we can use it to trigger our passive skill as much as we want. And now that we've hit level 5 with Luktaz, we've unlocked some of these advanced lines here. So what's the deal? We can only take one of these. Taking one of these lines locks out the other one. So this gives us bonus range on magical attacks versus a reduction in range but explosive bullets. So this is for making him better at shooting into like groups of enemies. I think continuing to use him to pick off enemy characters probably makes a lot of sense. Ooh, or we could just take the next level of increased mobility. Yeah, all right. We're going to take Hellforged Bolts, but we'll do it next level. I'm pretty happy with that.
Drazhoath is Victraza.
All right, so now we kind of have to figure out where we think we're expanding into next. There's open territory north of us, Karak Krakatan. This is a vampire faction who you can, as you can see here, they don't care for us very much. Apparently, they were big friends of the Thunderguts. We have neighbors that don't really care for us on all sides, it seems like, actually. Well, that's tricky. Also, there's some lizardmen down here. They don't like my whole deal. Well, you know what I like a lot about pushing sort of like eastward? We could wipe this faction out and not get drawn into like a protracted war. We're going to have to keep fighting in order to keep gathering labor, right? So, what does this province look like? Okay, it's just that settlement all by itself. Well, yeah, all right. Let's just deal with that so they don't come and backstab us later.
Stroll.
We'll head over in this general direction. Obviously, it's going to take us a couple of turns to prep for actual combat with vampires. That's, you know, that'll be neat. That'll be a fun change of pace. So I do think I kind of want to rush this construction. We're burning a fair amount of labor per turn. But also, I really want to get rolling on armament production. And also, we have a number of missions that want us to like build a refinery and stuff. Let's go ahead and rush this. For some reason, that caused Drazhoath to discover a... Oh, no, the game auto-equipped the scroll we already had. It's weird that it does that sort of like at random now. I wonder if that's on the list of bugs. Anyway, we did complete that Fight 3 Battles mission. So, labor gained post-battle up for 5 turns. Make sure to take advantage of that. And let's see here. So this settlement has particularly good timber. So you have access to a timber building eventually that will actually produce a lot of armaments per turn as long as we have 180 or more raw materials. Okay, that's interesting. We can build the Chaos Warrior recruitment buildings here because this place is a little bit more advanced. What we want, though, is a refinery. So the gunsmith just makes armaments. Here's our refinery structures. So, okay, these just turn raw materials into gold. But we have a... where's my mission display? We have a mission that wanted this, right? No, maybe not. Construct a building from the assembly line chain in a factory settlement. So that's this one. Okay, yeah. I mean, we need real armament income. It does seem like you could go through a lot of raw materials very, very quickly. And here we have a trade caravan being run by the Northern Provinces player, who we don't really know anything about. The map is pretty, even the map for this smaller game mode is pretty big. There's a lot of stuff going on out in the world, and it seems like we don't necessarily have to engage with a ton of it. We can just stay here and focus on our drill, but we have to be quote-unquote acquiring labor from somewhere. So I'm sure we will become acquainted with the neighbors presently. So we can see this stuff because our caravan is running along these roads. Caravans are important sources of information as much as the the actual goods they carry. Oh, and we've had an encounter with a skulking horde. Fog has descended around our convoy. The smell is putrid, and shuffling shapes can be glimpsed in the haze. The land around us teems with their shambling forms. We have stumbled unwittingly into the domain of the undead. These creatures can be confronted head-on, and the wretches put down for good, or, alternatively, we can order some of our number to distract them while we make our escape, though they will ultimately have no hope against the necrotic masses. So we can just hurl a unit of Chaos Dwarf Warriors at them to escape the battle. I gotta be honest with you, this is a lot of enemy units, and I am a little concerned. We don't really have any guns, it's just melee. Well, we have the Hell Cannon. To be perfectly honest with you, I think we might be able to win this. This is a lot of just like zombies, like you can see 5 melee attacks, 6 melee defense. Skeletons are a little bit better. We might lose though. I don't feel confident. The army's being led by an overseer who has, okay, it's pretty hardy, 120 armor, really good combat stats. You know what? Let's just throw some Chaos Dwarf Warriors at them and keep running. There's too much on the line for a battle I feel that uncertain for. So, okay, I think this is our next target here. We're headed to the Haunted Forest to burn the whole damn thing down. And then strip mine it for resources because, woo, extractive capitalism. But that all seems like a thing for tomorrow. The intention here with this series is going to be roughly 5 roughly an hour-long episodes each week until we have drilled beneath the very concept of the earth and into the heart of our waiting god. Because somehow that was the plan we came up with. So come back next time tomorrow for more. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you then.